lights, camera, and action. Welcome to the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. Remember those childhood movies you loved? We're going to watch them again and find out if they're still as amazing as you remember. Let's get ready to join Anna and Jimmy as they go back and watch those movies you remember being oh so awesomely good. Horror movies that scared. Comedy movies that dared.
Damn!
And action movies so preposterously ludicrous that they defied the laws of common sense. Now, here's your hosts, Anna Santos and Jimmy Coates.
And on with the show. All right. Welcome back to the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. If you are joining us, we are about to preview Return of the Living Dead. I am looking forward to this movie. Zombies have always been a favorite of mine. Anything zombie. Well, in that case, anything vampire, werewolf.
I enjoy the paranormal
Yeah.
and fantasy.
Demons.
100%.
Anything walking around with a mask and a machete. But zombies have always been a favorite. Like so many crappy straight to video rentals can attest to that for me.
Yep.
Because before 1985, like we had Day of the Dead came out in 85, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, a bunch of ripoffs from Europe, like City of the Living Dead, Night of the Zombie, Zombie with no E, Zombie 2. That's the one I think where the zombies fighting the shark underwater. Fantastic stunt even to this day. Point is, there was not a whole lot of movies back in 1985. Then this movie came out. I did not see it in 1985. You?
No, I think it was like mid 90s by the time I saw it.
Yeah, this would have been near the end of the 80s, early 90s for me. I actually saw Return of the Living Dead 2 and 3 before I saw this movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for a while, as young as I was, thinking I thought 2 was the superior movie. That changed as I got older.
Understandable.
Yeah. Although the second part has a special place in my heart because it has that Michael Jackson zombie near the end.
Yeah.
Getting electrocuted and doing the moonwalk. I remember it being scarier than the other. When I got older, Return of the Living Dead, I remember being a lot scary. I got the humor a lot more as I got older.
Yeah.
I also remember the teens being a lot cooler. But as I also got older, I found the older guys in the movie actually made the movie better.
Yeah.
Like especially the two workers and their supervisor and the old guy that runs the cemetery. Yeah.
I can understand that. I did not find this movie scary at all, but I still love it.
Yeah. And it has been a while since I watched it. The last time I saw it, I actually remember the effects being better than most movies at the current time. But I'm looking at like at least 15, maybe 20 years ago. Maybe not 20 years ago, but maybe 15.
For me, it's been about 10 years. It was on, oh God, I don't remember what channel it was on. I think it was on the 80s channel, the 80s movie channel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know which one.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was on and my brother-in-law was watching it. And then I got sucked into it.
Yeah.
And I ended up watching it with him, and that was at least 10 years ago. So, it's been at least 10 years since I've seen it, and I just remember having a good time watching it.
Yeah, I remember
I was
being
like, "I
fun.
like this." Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go over some box office. Let me see if this works or if we go back the other way. So can you see that okay?
I can see that.
See if I can see it. Gotta make it bigger. Oh, that's better. Okay. Okay. So 1985, August 16th, Return of the Living Dead came out.
Mhm.
It opened in 1,506 theaters and it opened in fourth place. It had a budget of $4 million. It opened at 4.4 million. Domestic closing was 14.2 million. International was $781. I don't know where the fuck they got that or where they show it.
One random movie theater or
Yeah.
cinema as they in, like, London probably played it for a few weeks.
And then so a total of 14.2 million. Yeah. So It did okay, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it made a lot of money on its VHS rentals, blah, blah, blah. It opened behind Back to the Future.
Oh.
Back to the Future was in its 7th week. Volunteers was in its 1st week. That's with John Candy and Tom Hanks.
Mm.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure was in its 2nd week at 3rd place, and this opened at 4th place.
Oh, yeah, no, it didn't have a chance.
No, and I've always said that 1985 and 1984 might be the greatest years in the movie.
Mm.
Just to get an idea of that, Year of the Dragon, this is in order after number 4. Year of the Dragon with Mickey Rourke, which I want to watch so badly after seeing the poster. Summer Rental, John Candy. European Vacation, Chevy Chase. Fright Night, Real Genius, Cocoon. The Bride with Sting. Was it Sting that was in The Bride?
Sure.
I never seen it.
I
Follow
hadn't seen
That
it.
Bird, Sesame Street. Silverado, I remember not wanting to see that movie. My parents watched it on TV, that 80s movie channel we were talking about. E.T. re-release, and I remember Silverado being awesome. The Black Cauldron, totally underrated. Rambo 2 and Weird Science. So if you were going in the
Wow.
movie theater in 1985, that's the choices you got.
Oh, yeah.
And those were a lot of classic movies.
That is a lot of classics.
So yeah, so box office, it did okay considering its budget and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm pretty impressed. I didn't realize the numbers would be that high.
All right, let's go to the tail of the tape. So, Return of the Living Dead is a 1985 horror comedy, rated R, and comes in at 1 hour and 31 minutes. Taglines: They're back from the grave and ready to party.
I like that one.
That's the only one. That's
Good
it.
thing I like it.
They must have liked it too, because that's all they did. When Foreman Frank, James Karen, shows new employee Freddie, Tom Matthews, a secret military experiment in a supply warehouse, the two klutzes accidentally release a gas that reanimates corpses into flesh-eating zombies. As the epidemic spreads throughout Louisiana, Kentucky, and
Louisville.
creatures... What did I say?
Louise?
Louisiana. Of course I did. Louisville, Kentucky. And the creatures satisfy their hunger in gory and outlandish ways. Frank and Freddie fight to survive with the help of their boss, Clue Gulliger,
Sure.
and a mysterious mortician, Don Caffa. All three of these older guys are so recognizable from 80s and 90s, 80s and 70s TV, actually. The movie poster.
It's a great poster. I love it.
Yeah, I do like that. I would love to get and underneath where it says Return of the Living Dead that has the zombie, underneath that is, I don't know if you can see it. I can't.
I can.
It is a lot of, it's the soundtrack, which is a lot of punk rock bands back in the 80s.
Fantastic. I do remember the soundtrack being amazing. I was like, I want the soundtrack of
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah. All right. So, this is surprising. 46 critic reviews have this movie at 91%.
Holy crap.
I thought I was on the wrong movie. 50,000 plus audience has it at 79%.
That's super high.
Yeah, both are super high. Critic
Yeah.
consensus: a punk take on the zombie genre, The Return of the Living Dead injects a healthy dose of 80s silliness to the flesh consuming. Okay, you can start.
I'm ready.
All right. Fresh.
The makeup effects are tremendous, and Kalfa and especially Karen are hilarious as working stiffs. No pun intended. Matt Brunson, Film Frenzy, original score 3 out of 4.
Part spoof comedy, part kitschy horror, The Return of the Living Dead was tailor-made to achieve cult status. Brian Eggert, deep focus review, original score 3 out of 4.
The Return of the Living Dead is the most 1980s zombie movie ever made, and I say that as a compliment, mostly. Chris Plant, Polygon.
The scares are always accompanied by silliness, though the special makeup effects are often outstanding, contributing to a considerable yuck factor. Mike Massey, Gone with the Twins, original score 7 out of 10.
Not bad. Ed O'Bannon and John Russo may have intended The Return of the Living Dead as a comedy, but it's just too damn gory, too scary, and too good to be dismissed as a zomcom. Christopher Lloyd, Sarasota Herald Tribune, original score 5 out of 5.
It's kind of a sensation machine made out of the usual ingredients, and the real question is whether it's done with style. It is. Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times, original score 3 out of 4. Damn. The Rotten.
The volume of stagey gore quickly reaches a point of diminishing returns. Stephen Holden, New York Times.
And that's it. There were a couple more, but it just said rotten. There was nothing.
Yeah.
But there was only like 3 or 4 of them. Like 91% was positive. So
no, that's crazy.
Yeah. Now IMDb, 66,000 user ratings, has at 7.3 out of 10.
That's pretty high.
I will start this one. What every horror comedy wants to be. 10 out of 10. Apollyon Crash.
Damn, this was good. 9 out of 10. Erica J. Thompson.
One of the quickest 90 minutes you'll ever experience. 8 out of 10. Tom Gillespie, 2002.
An adolescent masterpiece that was a compliment. 7 out of 10. Joseph Jans.
For pure 80s punk rock, Walking Dead, brain-eating mayhem, this is the film to watch. 6 out of 10. M. Wilson, 1976.
Personally, I don't get it. 5 out of 10. Aiden rates movies.
Didn't like it much. 4 out of 10. Ivan Ravenous.
I can't believe people like this movie. 3 out of 10. Film fan 15.
Avoid it. 2 out of 10. Max 304823.
This would have been good if it wasn't so bad. 1 out of 10. Movie Muse.
Now, they're, 3 out of 10 and 2 out of 10. One of them only had 2 to choose from, and one of them only had 1. There were a lot more 1 out of 10s, and they're funny, so I put more like Return of the Living jokes. 1 out of 10. Aussie Stud.
Terrible movie rises from the grave. 1 out of 10. Art Vandelay, importer exporter.
I have that shirt, Art Vandelay, importer exporter. It's a Seinfeld reference. All right. Okay, so the only thing left to do is to watch the trailer and then make a prediction. See if I can find it. There it is. All right.
In the dark of the night, something strange is going on. From the grave.
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100.
And now the question is, how do we get them back into the ground?
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem. 4 left, 10 right. Because technically, you're not alive.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
How do you kill something that's already dead? Well, how do I know, Fred? I don't know. Let me think. It's not a bad question, Bert. In that movie, they destroyed the brain to kill him. Is that what they did? The brains, right. Yeah. Brains. Brains. The brain. I hit the brain. Oh! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off!
The military
All right. What are your predictions?
I think I'm gonna think it's incredibly cheesy, but I'm gonna love it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's what I because I'm getting really good at not seeing the trailers anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it brought back a lot of
Yeah.
yeah, it looks funny,
It
like
looks
cheesy
very
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's gonna be a lot of, like, laughing and eye rolling, I can feel it.
yeah. No, I'm excited about watching it.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, this should be. I hope it's good.
Me too.
And with the reviews and everything, yeah,
A lot of people seem to like it, so I feel pretty good going into this thinking I'm gonna love it.
yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. All right. And with that, we are going to watch Return of the Living Dead to see if is indeed as good as we remember. All right. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I'm very
Do
excited.
you want a part?
You heard them. Movie time. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a treat, and then watch a classic kick-ass movie from whenever the one we're about to watch was made.
I can't hear you.
I know. I noticed that. Actually, it actually told me this time, like, moron, your fucking mic is muted. I was just singing, "Do you want a party?"
Of course you did.
Oh, so I have watched The Return of the Living Dead. Have you watched The Return of the Living Dead?
Why, yes, I have.
And your initial thoughts?
God, it's so cheesy, it hurts.
It's very cheesy.
So cheesy, and I'm not mad about that. Like, I'd like to officially go on the record. But I was like, "Wow, they really went for, like, super cliche 80s, almost feels like an after school special, but like an after school special on drugs."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot how well done this movie was.
Mhm.
And I also forgot, well, I knew it was fun to watch, but how well it holds up,
Yeah.
special effects wise. It's not a perfect movie, but for the year 1985 and just how fun it was, I was able to forgive any of the missteps that it have. Yeah, I got actually so excited. I watched it Saturday.
Mhm.
So I had to watch it on my laptop.
Ugh.
I have two 4K TVs, a 65 and a 50, and I'm sitting there with a friggin'
Yeah, but you also have,
laptop.
like, 55 kids, so I
I know.
mean.
And the new Mermaid came out
Oh, did it?
on Disney. Yeah. They're
Oh.
like, "Do you wanna watch The Little Mermaid?" I'm like, "No, I don't wanna watch fucking Little Mermaid. I
I
wanna
have
watch Return of
zombies
the
to
Living
watch.
Dead." What's that?
You're like, "I have zombies to watch. Damn
Yeah.
it.
I was watching Little Mermaid.
Fuck the mermaids." Yeah, no, I made a lot of notes about the makeup and the FX in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I had to keep reminding myself. I was like, it almost feels like when someone is making a movie just to look like an 80s movie, it
Yeah.
almost felt like that.
Yeah,
'Cause
like
I was like,
it was made recently. It takes
yes,
place in the '80s.
'cause there
Like
was a
it.
lot where I was like, well, shit, like when the 2, like, warehouse workers, I think it's Frank and Freddie, they start looking pale. I was like,
Yeah.
that makeup actually looks really good. Like, it's not too cartoonish. It
No.
actually, like, they have a pallor to them and a gray pallor, and they kinda look a little waxy. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good." The
And
zombies were great.
it progressed because
Yes,
when they first woke up, it was very faint,
very faint, but you could tell
and
there was a
then there
difference.
was a difference, yes, but
Yeah,
and then it got worse. The director, the crew, everybody took great
yeah,
care in, yeah,
yeah, so
setting this.
there were a lot of moments. There was one moment, though, I think when Freddy gets thrown back and his t-shirt jumps up, and you can see where they actually have makeup at his waistline, but
Oh.
then it stops mid-ab. And it's just, like, his regular, and I was like, "Oh," but his shirt isn't a crop top. So I was like, "Wow, you guys were really, like, just in case your shirt goes up a little bit," but it
Yeah,
went up a little further.
two
But yeah,
further,
no,
yeah.
that was that, like, I was surprised
Yeah,
at the
no,
vibe
so
of the
was I.
movie and the makeup and the FX. I was like, "Oh, guys, well done." Also, I gagged and, I found a lot of it very nauseating.
Yeah, there was a
So,
few gross
also,
parts.
there's some this is a movie that is gross but not scary.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
There were a couple, when I want to say jump scares. Um,
Startles?
Startles,
Yeah,
yeah,
you get a little startled
yeah,
sometimes.
little tension,
Yeah, but
yeah,
nothing like,
nothing scary,
"Oh,
scary. Like you
like,
knew what
no
was
st
coming.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, it was still pretty entertaining, and there were some things where I was like, "Oh god, that's disgusting.
yeah.
Oh god," and then there was, the naked girl, and I was like, "Why does she look like Barbie?"
Well, there was a trivia part of the Dan O'Bannon, the director, eating calf brains because he paid some extra money if they would eat the raw calf
Yeah,
brains. Yeah. I have a few fun facts. One of the fun facts, because you brought it up, the naked girl, they brought someone in when they were trying to get their rating, and the girl who was the naked one had pubic hair, and the
yeah.
lady was like, "You can't have that." So Dan O'Bannon's like, "Okay," sent her away to have her clean shaven, and then the lady came back. She's like, "That's worse." But yeah, it finally got an R rating.
Well, I kept like, "This is terrible." I kept staring at her crotch
Hey, so did I.
because I was like, "Does
Well,
she
when
have,
you
like"
have a full naked woman, you're like, "Wait a minute,
well,
is she?"
no, full naked woman, fine, and, like, she took off all of her clothing, so I was like, except for the leg warmers.
Yeah,
Say what now? But fine, if that's your choice. But then I kept looking at her crotch because I was like, "Is she wearing, like, a modesty cover on top or
I think she
not?"
was when she was a zombie. I do not think she was when she was human.
I was trying to figure it out, and I was like, "I can barely see her vulva." Like,
There
I was like, modesty cover, no modesty cover, but I didn't wanna be super creepy and, like, pause the movie and stare because that would be weird.
Oh,
So
that's
now this is
super creepy.
Yes, Jimmy. Super creepy.
Why
But
is
I was just
dad
like,
just staring at his he hasn't blinked in 5 minutes.
"Dad, what are you looking at?" "Nothing."
Nothing, go away, go watch your stupid fucking mermaid show.
Yeah, no, it was very distracting. Also, the fact that her boobies did not move at all.
No, they were fake.
No, they were beyond fake.
Yeah,
Like, they were
they
just
weren't going anywhere,
no,
which
they
is
didn't
great for
even
all the running around she had to do.
yeah. Like, God bless, that woman could go run a marathon and never put on a sports bra because her boobs don't go anywhere.
No.
They don't move, like, even side to side, nothing.
Nope.
So I was transfixed by that. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I was just like, "They're really not like, not even a little sway,
No.
no jiggle, no nothing. They're just stationary." And it was weird.
All right, well, let's dive into this movie. Okay, so Return of the Living Dead. Medical supply warehouse foreman Frank James Karen. Okay, wait, first, this movie starts off very different, and I don't
Mhm.
know if I've ever seen it since. The following film is all true. The names are the real people and the real places that it took place. That it had that disclaimer at the beginning. And just looking at this, okay, so first, before we get into the official plot, Bert Clue Gallagher is getting ready to leave the medical warehouse because the plot doesn't start on this. The name of it, you need a medical warehouse, and is checking in on Frank, James Karen, and new employee Freddie, Tom Matthews. They are just waiting on something, and Frank is going to show Freddie the ropes. Can I just say right at the beginning, Bert, Frank, and soon Ernie propelled this movie to another level of silliness.
I was gonna say, I was like, "Another level of what?" Because
Oh,
it was just ridiculously silly and over the top.
and they they seem to be enjoying themselves. They went
Yes.
for it. Yeah.
It was like dad joke levels, like, just,
Oh,
when you meet your friend's dad and they start cracking jokes and they're all
yeah.
like, "Look, I'm super cool," and you're like, "No, you're not, sir." But you find it endearing, and so that
Yeah.
was definitely the vibe, and I was into it.
Yeah. I wrote like these are 3 seasoned actors,
Mm,
and like they've done some pretty serious stuff, some shitty stuff. Like they've
mm,
all got over 150 credits of movies under their belt on
yeah.
IMDb. But they really listened to the director. The director, I guess, wanted silly, and they did it. I don't think I appreciated it as a kid. The younger people were a lot cooler to me when I watched this when I was
Well,
younger.
yeah.
The naked chick was awesome. and I think I really enjoyed the older guys. I just didn't realize how intricate they were to making this
Yeah.
movie as silly as it was. Director Dan O'Bannon was originally supposed to play Frank. This was one of the fun facts that I found. He wrote the part for himself. James Karen came in and read for another part, and O'Bannon was simply blown away and hired
Yeah.
him right on the spot and gave him the Frank thing. And yeah, James Karen, he was pretty funny. Okay, so now on with the plot. Oh, before this, we also get to see Freddy's friends, Spider, who I recognize as from a ton of stuff, Miguel A. Nunes Jr.,
Correct.
who was also homeless and living in a car when he got this part.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, he's been in a lot, like a
He
lot, a lot.
has. He's, I think, still working to this day,
Yes,
if
he
I'm not
is.
mistaken. Like,
Yeah, when
he's
I was checking
still
it out.
hustling.
Yeah, and he's got like 170 or he's not big, huge parts, but steady, steady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is definitely a steady working actor, which is always impressive.
Um, where are we? Who else do we have here? Scuzz, played by Brian
Mm.
Peck, Casey, Jules Shepard, Chuck, John Philbin, and Trash. It's our naked girl, Lena Quigley, and Tina, Freddy's girlfriend, played by Beverly
Mm.
Randolph. Okay, so
Yes,
within
Tina.
yeah, so within a short time, we get to see the old guys, Freddy and Freddy's friends, trying to figure out what to do tonight. One says they're going to go hang out at the park, but they can't go hang out at the park because the cops threaten to shoot them in the face if they see them there again. Freddy gets off at 10. Then they decide to wait for Freddy because he's always knows where the best places to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Medical supply warehouse foreman Frank James Karen informs his new protege, Freddy, that Night of the Living Dead was based on true events that occurred when a gas, 2,4,5 trioxin, was released into the morgue in the basement of a Pittsburgh hospital, causing the bodies to jerk around as if they were alive. The military was able to get a handle on the situation, clean up the spill and the infected corpses. The story was leaked, and the military said the movie could be made, but they had to change the story around and say it was fictional. Through a clerical error, a few barrels containing the trioxin infected bodies were shipped to their warehouse, and have remained there for years. A skeptical Freddy doesn't buy it, so Frank takes him to the basement and shows him the barrels. Inside the barrel, they see the now mummified remains of the body, and Freddy is scared about the barrel's durability. Frank reassures him of the solid military construction of the barrels by slapping it on the side, causing a leak of gas, poisoning and knocking out the two as we see the glass on the lid break open and the body start to liquefy.
Mm,
So the
that was
body
gross.
yeah, it was gross. Quick fun fact. The corpse melting, it was just wax and they heated it up to melt it.
Yeah.
The heat actually shattered the glass by accident. But the
Oh,
director loved it and kept it in and decided not to take the shot.
right
And that
on.
probably a lot to do with the budget too.
Yeah.
And then the gas is being sucked up into the vent and into the freezer with the cadaver. I love the opening. The typical old guy showing the new guy, the punk teens. They get the skeletons from India thanks to a treaty, but they don't know how they get them all with perfect teeth. I love the split dogs.
Mm,
They get the orders for split dogs for veterinarian schools. But I like how Frank makes all these corny jokes as they're going through the
yeah.
warehouse. But when Freddy makes the dog bark or growl, Frank is like, "Don't fool around, you're learning."
That's because Frank can fool around because he knows.
Yes, he
Freddy
knows.
doesn't know yet. So
No,
he can't fool around. He can't make jokes. He doesn't even know the source of the jokes yet. But
no.
Frank does.
While this is happening, Freddy's girlfriend, Tina, Beverly Randolph, and her friends are going to pick up Freddy from the warehouse. They arrive early and, in an effort to pass the time, decide to hang out at the cemetery that is next door. This is where we're introduced to Suicide,
Mhm.
Mark Venturini,
Mhm.
who's kind of pissy because they only seem to call him when they need a ride.
Yes.
Uh, we also get to see the Colonel coming home, and he is the guy who's looking for these canisters. His wife made him lamb chops and he says he had them for lunch, and she complains that all that computer equipment is fucking up her microwave. Time passes, and Freddy and Frank awaken and see the body in the canister is gone. They assume it dissolved upon contact with air. They head upstairs to try and sort things out, only to hear a strange noise coming from one of the shelves. Them coming to and trying to figure out
Yeah.
doesn't do it justice just by saying like Freddy is like, should we call the boss? And Frank is like, well, that'll make us look stupid.
Yes.
This is where we get the Lysol trying to get rid of the smell of the rotting corpse
Yeah,
smell.
because also when they wake up from their little fog-induced coma, Frank is sweating. He's got
Mm,
sweat stains all down his chest, all
profusely.
yeah. Freddy still looks relatively fresh, although a little gray,
Yeah,
but he's still like, "Do, do, 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 do," and Frank looks like
Frank is
he
sick.
yeah, Frank is sick, sick. So I'm like, "Damn, Frank, I'm sorry."
And I loved the split dogs barking
Yep.
and Frank freaking out when he starts. Frank freaking out was one of the most enjoyable things about this movie because he did it so well. Like he had that body shudder and crying
Yes.
out agony thing.
It was funny though, because for the dog, when they start beating on it, I
The
felt bad for
crutch
the dog.
because it's yelping and
It
he's
was
just beating
yelping,
the
and I was
shit
just
out
like
of it.
he's just beating the shit out of it, and I was like, "Oh, don't hurt the dog," even though it's
Oh.
a dog that's been sliced in half and brought back to life, but be nice to the dog.
Upon investigating, they find out that the half dog I got ahead of myself. Anatomy display has returned to life. The dog whimpering in pain and panting. Freddy and Frank proceed to freak out and attempt to silence the dog by bashing it with a walking crutch. There you go.
Perfect.
I got ahead of myself. Other things in the warehouse, such as the dead butterfly display, have returned to life, culminating in the screams of the now reanimated cadaver in the freezer. And Frank freaks out again. The butterflies coming to life looked great. Like the
It
way
looked
they
so
were.
good, and I also
Yeah.
just like how they framed that shot because the butterflies were not the subject of the shot.
No, they
So
were
you
off to
just see
yeah.
movement kind of in the peripheral of the shot, and you're like,
They
"What the
didn't
fuck?"
even notice it. That was
Yeah.
for us. Yeah.
That was for us. It
Yeah.
was like everything dead is coming back, even these random butterflies that are pinned to this thing, and you're just kinda like, "Oh, oh, nice touch."
Yeah. Yeah. Frank freaks out again. After several minutes of panic, the two decide to call their boss, Bert. Frank figures out it's the chemicals from the tank got everywhere and brought the corpse back to life. Freddy calls him a stupid asshole, and
Mm,
that's when Frank's like, "Watch your tone if you like this job."
and
He's like,
Freddy's like,
"Like
"Like
this
this job."
job?"
He's like, "Sir, have you not been with me for the last, like, half an hour? This is not where I wanna be."
Yeah. And the plot doesn't have it, but Frank decides to call Bert. He dials the phone on the rotary phone.
Mm,
I That was funny. But puts the receiver down, takes a drink of water, fixes his hair,
yeah,
composes himself, and picks up the phone and talks s- overly calm.
yes.
Like, Bert, we might have a problem. I don't know if O'Bannon, the director and writer, wrote it this way on purpose or James Karen and Gallagher later created it themselves, but it had a very Abbott and Costello silliness to it.
Honestly, this entire movie has a lot of, like, Abbott and Costello. It has a lot of, I almost wanna say, like, the silent era film kind of vibe. A
Yeah,
lot of physical
goofy.
expressiveness, a
Yeah,
lot of, like, goofy, kinda over the top, but you enjoy it.
yeah. Take out the abundance of F words, the full frontal nudity, and the gore. This would be a silly Saturday comedy movie type thing.
Well, it's funny because I kept thinking, like, this has a very after school special vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
It's very almost light,
yeah.
but not
But the
necessarily.
material is so
Yeah,
serious.
the material is so you end up not confused, but just a little conflicted
Yeah,
on what
it's
kind of
off
movie
not
it is.
off-putting, but it's
No, it is
yeah.
off no, you off-putting is the perfect word because you're like, "Ew, runny brains coming out of the skull." Oh, but that's really funny because 'cause they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah, crying.
Yeah, it's, th so random,
Yeah.
but weirdly comforting.
Like when Frank asks him, "What are we gonna do with Daver coming back to life?" And Berta's like, I'm gonna get sued. I'm gonna get very famous and probably go to jail." Like, it was just this funny oh,
Yeah.
The three devise a plan to try to stop the zombie in the freezer. Before this, though, we go back to the cemetery, and this is important because we get boobies. Actually, we
Also,
get more than boobies.
we get everything. But can we just note that the cemetery is called the Resurrection Cemetery?
Oh yeah, I forgot that. Yeah,
Yeah. It was like, nice touch. Nice touch. I see what you're doing there. It's nice.
there was also I didn't notice it in the movie, and I'll go back and check it. But you know how they had the eye test,
Yeah.
the big giant poster of the eye test. When I was looking at the trivia, if you go back and read it, it says Bert is a slave driver and a cheap son of a bitch. And it's just these little things that they put in here to
Yeah.
and I think it was for
Fantastic.
them, just for them.
Honestly, the majority of set deck, and if you work in set deck, please feel free to comment or suggest things. They'll put their own personality in things, and they'll
Mhm.
put their own items sometimes on set just to be like, "That was me. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be there." Or they'll, I've seen people who literally wrote letters because there's supposed to be a letter in the scene, and they write an entire letter that's like this whole drama, and
Oh,
it's a
right,
good time.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. So set deck people have fun with stuff, and 9 times out of 10, you don't even see it, but
Yeah,
it's
like,
there.
this stuff is just okay, so Trash, who is great in this film, is talking about getting eaten alive and gets, like, turned on and stripped until she's completely naked.
Yes.
Trivia, Dan O'Bannon was friends with Jules Shepard, who plays Casey in the movie. She was a stripper and played naked girls in movies. He wanted her for Trash, but she wanted to have a part that didn't require her to get naked. So
Good
he
for her.
gave her yeah, he gave her the part of Casey.
Mhm.
Another fun fact, I think she appeared naked in every other movie after this, with movies like Hollywood Hot Tubs 2, Party Camp, Cage Heat 2, and Garfield and Friends. I'm sure she read nude. Based on the method that worked in Night of the Living Dead, bash it in the head. To be fair, they were all in agreement that this was a great idea.
Yes.
Frank crying yet again because it was his fault. He had to use the pick to hit the thing in the head.
Mhm.
I get the feeling that if I was in this movie, I would be Frank. That'd be me.
Probably. See,
Oh,
in this movie, I'd be the one who got in my car and drove away.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would not later when everything was all
No, no,
fucking
no. As soon as, like,
impossible.
it starts to go off, peace out.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'm good. That's what Freddie should have done.
Honestly,
I'm
yes.
out. I am out. Not that that would have helped them.
Well,
Um, and the simple act of having to unlock the door with a combination, like that's what I mean. There was some tension
yeah.
because they went through the whole thing. He's like 38, right? Four back or whatever. And then he looks at him, he's like nods at him, and then he opens it. And what upon opening the freezer, the cadaver runs for Bert. Yeah, it runs right past Frank.
Yeah.
And when he tackles Bert, you could hear him be like, "Oh," as like he's getting tackled to the ground. I love that scene so much.
It was
And
pretty funny because all of a sudden you see this,
totally naked cadaver.
green? It
Yeah,
was
greenish
kinda
yellow
greenish yellow, just runs, like, streaking right across the room,
and tackle
straight
him.
to Bert.
Yeah.
It's like, "I'm gonna
Well,
climb you like a
it's
tree,
like
Bert."
he had the biggest brain. He was the smartest guy in the room, and that
Apparently.
zombie knew it. But yeah, and after wrestling it to the ground, Bert staples it to the floor. Actually, the other two pin it to the floor. Oh
Yep.
no, staples it to the floor with a pickaxe to the head. Despite this, the body continues to thrash around. This corpse screams bloody murder, like totally in pain
Yep.
because it just got a pick through the head. And you're laughing and you're like, oh my God, because this thing is screaming because there's a pickaxe in its
Yeah, because his head is pinned to the ground with the
yeah.
pickaxe, and you're just like, "Oh my god," because it's still going, and they're
And
like,
it's
"What do we do
funny.
now?" "I don't know, this seemed like a good idea."
And it's funny. It's
Yeah,
gross. It's
I
offsetting because he's screaming. Yeah, like it was a very off-putting.
it gets a little grosser once they grab
Oh
the
yeah.
saw,
Yeah.
and then I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
"Oh god. Oh god. No."
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, it was like it got grosser, so it stopped being funny at that point for me, and it just got really gaggy.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's even when they cut off its head with a bone saw, they decide to take it over the mortuary next door and see Bert's old friend Ernie, played by Don Kaffa, who looks familiar. That was the hitman from Weekend at Bernie's.
Correct.
Yeah, one of our old friends there. Yeah, he's awesome
Hmm.
too. But yeah, because they cut off his head and they show the whole thing. It's not
Yeah,
bleeding
no,
because it's a cadaver, but it's
n-
still gross.
no, but there's some like
There's
pus that
cartilage.
comes
There,
out.
yeah,
There's like this creamy off-white stuff that starts coming out of the neck, and I was like, "Oh god, I don't even wanna know what that is."
and they
It
could
was
have very
horrible.
easily saved some money and probably some headaches in the effects department by just doing it above shot, showing
Yeah,
them do this and make the sound. But
mhm,
no, they put the effort into making that as
yep,
gross looking as possible.
and they really went for it, my friend.
Yeah.
They went for it.
So they take it over there to have it cremated. When the pickaxe to the head does not work, one character exclaims, "It worked in the movie," directly referencing Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, Bert is like, "I thought you said it would work." Frank is like, "It worked in the movies." And then Freddie say, like, "The movie lied to us?" Like he was shocked that the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, back in the cemetery, night has fallen, and the gang of kids are listening to music and talking amongst themselves. Tina is worried about Freddy, as he should have been off work by now. She leaves the group to go investigate. Meanwhile, the discussion turns to death and imagining the worst possible way to die. Trash, the pink haired female of the group, imagines the worst way for her to die is to be surrounded by a bunch of old men and they start biting her all over her body. As she says this, she's ripping off her own clothes and begins to dance in only gray leg warmers atop a
Mhm.
grave. Yeah.
But the best part was somebody said something about like, "Oh, Trash has already taken off her own clothes."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Get light some light
again. They were like,
again. Yeah.
"Again."
So
So
this
I was
is
like, "Oh, so this is just a thing that she does." Okay, don't get me wrong, like, I've known people who, like, once they get a little happy, they just start taking off their clothes,
yeah.
and you
And
have to
this
have a
actually
discussion.
happens. This actually happens before the cadaver scene. Around this Trash is all hot from dancing, and Chuck is like, "You sure are hot," whatever. And then Suicide tells him to scram, and Trash is actually practically humping his leg as
Yes,
he's
and
pouring his
groping him.
heart out.
Yeah.
Because about how no one understands it, and he delivers one of the best lines of the movie. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" Or what did he say? "What's wrong
What?
with you? Show some respect for the dead."
Yes. It's funny though, because he has this great, like, little monologue about,
Yeah,
he's got feelings.
he's got feelings.
This is like, everybody just assumes, like, this is not just a look. This is a lifestyle. He's like and she's literally just rubbing up against him like a cat in heat and putting her hand on his dick
yeah,
constantly. And I was just like and he's still talking.
yeah,
And then when she moves to the front and still rubbing herself up on him, that's when he's like, "What's wrong with you?
yeah. What's
Have
wrong with
some
you?
respect for the dead." And I was like, "She's been dancing naked for the last, like, 20 minutes, guys."
Yeah, but good for him for having a line.
It was nice, it was nice. Also, I'd like to point out everybody was sweating.
Oh
Some
yeah,
people more than others,
yeah.
but
It
everybody was sweating, and I was like, "How hot is it out that night?"
it looked like it was a hot. Though they
Yeah.
filmed it in California. The only one that was cold was Trash
Mm,
because it was a 6-week shoot and she was almost completely naked. And she
yeah.
said it wasn't too bad, but when they used the rain machine
Yeah.
and it was at night, it got really cold.
9 times out of 10, the water that's in the rain machine is
It's
literally
freezing. Yeah.
freezing. So, I can understand why she would be like, "Fuck this shit. It's too
Yeah.
cold."
But everyone else looked like they were pretty hot.
Yeah. There was a lot of sweat, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's intense."
And there was also another great line when Chuck and Casey were talking, and Suicide walks by, and then Casey's like, "Oh, great, here's your friend and mine," and he kind of has that hurt, like he's like, "Hey, fuck you, ball buster!" Like everyone's hurting this guy's feelings.
Well, yeah. He's in emotional turmoil, and nobody seems to understand that.
He was. I did like. I liked all the characters. I thought they were, but
Oh,
he
yeah.
was good. Yeah. Okay. Back at the warehouse, we see Tina trying to find Freddy. She makes her way downstairs and is greeted by a dripping body from the canister. They nicknamed him the Tar Man, played by Alan Trotman, a stunt guy,
He was
uh,
great.
who asked for one thing: brains.
Mm.
She escapes to a metal locker, barring the door from within, but the tar man hooks up winching chain to the door and proceeds to use the winch to pull the door off. Now we start to see that these aren't George Romero zombies,
No.
because the guy that wrote the book, The Return of the Living Dead, was the same guy who worked with George Romero on Night of the Living Dead. They
Hmm.
split ways. George A. Romero said, I will use dead, and the other guy said, I will only use living dead. But you could see that these were different than you're walking around the
Yeah.
Walking Dead zombies. And these zombies can think, because this thing's
Oh,
hooking
yeah.
up
It's
the
problem
winch, and
solving.
yeah. Also, I think this is slightly out of order, but great scene. Tina running up the stairs, falls through the stairs.
Yeah.
It was mentioned on a couple occasions to watch for the third step because it was a bitch. It was broken. She had to hide in the locker, and the fact, that the zombie just looks around and quickly sees the tools.
Yeah.
I would much rather face like the slow, lumbering zombies, not these fucking things.
Oh God, no, not these ones. They move fast.
They run and they're
Yeah.
smart.
No, fuck that shit.
Yeah, no, these are horrifying.
Hmm.
At the mortuary, Bert, Freddie, and Frank convince Ernie to cremate the sawed up remains of the still twitching freezer cadaver, but the furnace releases the gas from the zombie into the clouds, causing it to rain.
Hmm.
I do like that they tell Ernie that they're rabid weasels. And he's
Yes.
like, I can't just burn them alive. And then he gets his gun. He's like, let's go out to the parking lot and shoot them in the head first.
Yeah. He was like, "Well, we'll kill them first. Like, don't worry, it's fine." I'm
Yeah.
like, it's kind of nice, but weird. But okay.
Then they come clean. He, of course, doesn't believe them. They bring out the hand or the arm that immediately
Hmm.
grabs his ankle and he's freaking out. That was a fun scene.
That was very fun. Rips
The
his pant
rain,
leg.
yeah, yeah. The rain contaminated with the trioxin forces the gang out of the cemetery to their car. They mention how the rain burns their skin. Do they all mention that? I know Trash
Hmm.
is really complaining about it, but she's completely
Somebody else
nude.
says, "I wonder what's in that rain."
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, they're all running, and then they're like, "Oh my God, the roof is leaking." And they're
Yeah.
just all freaking out.
The car's convertible roof starts to leak, so they run to take refuge inside the warehouse. Upon entering, they hear Tina's screams from the basement and rush to help. They see the
Hmm.
door slowly being pulled off the locker as they push back a curtain, blocking their view of the basement floor. The tar man is revealed, who bites the top of Suicide's skull. Great
Mm,
death.
so great. I feel bad for
Yeah.
Suicide though.
Yeah. And he might have been a little handy to have later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they don't hesitate to book it. Actually, I'm sorry. Tina books it.
Yeah.
The others stay, and Spider throws the paint can at the zombie, who looks up at them and says, more brains. And then they book it.
Yeah. Tina's like, fuck this shit. I've been through this. I don't need this again.
Yeah.
And
I
they're
would have been right
like,
behind Tina.
we're going to save Suicide,
Yeah.
which the guy's chewing on his brains. Like, I think the moment has passed. But then, yeah, they throw, and then he's like, more brains.
Yeah.
And it was just the way he said it. Almost like when a kid finishes like their plate of chicken nuggets, and
Yeah.
then
And
the
there's
parent
more.
walks over with more chicken nuggets, and they're like, more chicken nuggets, more brains.
Yeah. I definitely would have been right behind Tina. Tina escapes the locker and runs to join her friends as they escape the basement, fleeing the tar man and the warehouse. They make a run for the mortuary. Actually, Spider, the smartest of the and the funniest, is the only one that
Mhm.
stays behind, because he's like, where the fuck are you going? Help me pull the door. I believe he calls them stupid fuckers.
Yes.
I don't know if this, because this is a little out of order, I missed the ambulance, or it's coming up. Let me check.
The ambulance is coming up
Yes, yeah, it's coming
because
up here.
they have to.
Yeah. Having seen some men enter it earlier, during this time, the rain has been seeping into the ground and as a result into the coffins and the corpses, causing them to reanimate. As a group takes refuge at the entrance at a mausoleum, they can hear the muffled screams and pounding of the dead under the earth. As they listen, they spot the skeletal remains of a corpse rising from the ground. his eyes opening and jaw dropping.
Mhm.
Fun fact, the director thought when he first saw that was a work in progress. He realized that was it. He thought there was going to be more to that. But it
Amazing.
worked to start the music, and
Yeah.
the group then proceeds to run in panic and splits up. Tina, Spider, and Scuzz heading for the mortuary, Chuck and Casey heading back to the warehouse, and Trash remaining behind the graveyard. Really, not one guy checks on the fully nude girl.
No.
I
They
feel
all
this
just
was a
left her.
major plot hole. No one was like, "Where's the nude chick?" Or, "Hey, someone grab the nude."
Now I know this is gonna be crazy talk for you, but, maybe they were more concerned with not getting chewed on by a
Yeah,
bunch of dead people
wusses.
than where's the naked girl?
Come on, naked girl, come with me. She falls into a puddle of muddy water, panicked and crying, only to be surrounded by a group of undead who proceed to eat her. She got her wish. I don't know if it was
Mhm.
her wish, but
She said it was the worst way she could imagine dying, but she also apparently got very turned on by that idea.
yes. Yeah.
So, what we can conclude from this is that Trash needed extensive therapy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because when you hear loud screamings coming from a cemetery, you don't just sit there screaming.
Yeah, no.
No. During this time at the mortuary, Frank and Freddie are starting to feel very sick and looking deathly ill. Yeah, and
Mhm.
you're right. Like it progressed. It looked great.
It was a very slow progression. Like, it was incremental,
Yeah.
and then because you don't even realize, you're just like, "Oh, they've really, like, gotten more sick," and you're just like, "Huh,
Yeah.
interesting."
Ernie calls the paramedics. This was great. The paramedics check their vitals and then confer with each other, switch, then
Mm,
and then they go have their little talk, and they come back to the conclusion that something is wrong because their equipment is saying that they're dead. Frank freaks out and starts crying. Oh,
Frank
I
is
loved it.
very expressive.
Yes, very emotional.
Yes.
Um, they decide they better get them to the hospital. So Tina, Spider, and Scuzz show up claiming that there are bodies getting up out of the ground in the cemetery. The paramedics arrive at the rear entrance and find that by all medical reasoning, Frank and Freddie are dead and shouldn't be moving around. The paramedics want to get them to the hospital for further testing and go to get the stretcher and report it to dispatch. They are subsequently attacked by zombies from the graveyard who proceed to request the dispatch send more paramedics. That was a great scene.
Yes.
One,
Although I have a bone to pick, and I have no medical training. I'd like to make that official and be very super clear about this. I have no medical training. However, when what's his name? Oh god, the mortician, Ernie. When he's describing, because he has a body on the table, and he's describing to the 2 guys about rigor mortis,
yes.
and he's like, "You can break it," which you can. Um, you don't have to wait for it to pass naturally. But then he rolls him over, the dead guy, and you see the blood that's pooled there,
Yeah.
and he still calls it rigor mortis, and I was like, "Isn't that lividity?" Y Apparently, I've watched enough shows about dead people, I'm like, "That's lividity." Like, that's when the blood pools according to where they were. Maybe I've just watched too many murder mysteries. Anyways, when the paramedics are looking at Freddy, they pull up his shirt and, like, kinda roll him a little bit, and you see that he has the same lividity, but they still call it rigor, and it makes
Oh, I
me
didn't
so
know.
mad because rigor is the, like, tightening of the muscles in the body
Yeah.
after death. Lividity is the pooling of the blood. So I'm like, "Stop getting this wrong. The paramedics should know. The mortician should know.
Yeah, they should know.
They should
I
know."
didn't know.
I watch too many murder mysteries. Lividity is a very big thing about moving the body that it anyways, that's not the point, but I just wanted to point that out because it drove me fucking nuts. Fucking nuts. Anyways, let's talk about the paramedics who then got eaten.
Well, one goes in the back, the other goes to dispatch, hears something, turns on the headlights, and just zombies everywhere.
Mm,
Zombie opens the passenger door to get him. He jumps out the other way, but is attacked by a bunch. The guy in the back hears something, gets out, doesn't get far. Zombies behind the door, zombies behind him, zombies tackling him.
yeah.
That was a good scene. I like. The mortuary is then attacked by zombies at the front of the building. First, Ernie goes out to see what is taking the paramedics so long because Tina, Spider, and Scuzz are reunited with Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
Tina throws out blame and accusations. Ernie sees the zombies eating the paramedic.
Yes.
I believe it was supposed to be a zombie missing legs.
It was supposed to be a zombie missing legs, but I think it was just a little person.
I think it was, and because they made it look like he was missing his legs.
Yeah.
But he chases him.
Oh, quick as a bunny.
Yeah. He gets back in and he's freaked out. Okay, so the mortuary is then attacked by zombies at the front of the building, and the remaining people start to board up the place. And amazingly, and in glorious 80s fashion, a zombie montage commences.
Of course. You have to have a montage.
Boarding up doors, windows, music playing, beating back zombies from the windows and doors so they can board it up. Another fun fact, Clu Gallagher, who apparently loved this movie and considered it one of his 5 best works of art that he's ever done, is also a very passionate actor and can get very angry and gets angry quite often. He was using a real crowbar at the beginning of all these scenes, but the crew switched it out with a rubber one because director Daniel Bannon was afraid he might hurt someone because he had a bunch of angry and sometimes violent outbursts during filming.
I mean, valid.
Yeah, let's get rid of that crowbar.
But I like that that's the valid, choice, and apparently the only choice they thought of. Not, "We should have a talk about his anger,"
No,
or, "We should fine him for it." No, let's just switch out his crowbar so he can't actually hurt people too bad. He can
Yeah,
still hurt them, but not too bad.
and that'll save some time.
Yeah.
I'd love to get some behind the scenes documentary stuff on
God,
this.
yeah.
This is not part of the plot, I think. Let me peruse. No, Casey and Chuck get into the medical building around this time. They go to use the phone and a zombie jumps through the window.
Mhm.
Then they hear the ones at the mortuary hear the second ambulance arriving. Not before Ernie checks Freddy and realizes rigor mortis is setting in. Yeah, there you go. There's where you were getting upset.
Mhm.
And are witness to an instant mobbing and attack by the zombies, the paramedics. Again, great scene. They were just hiding and waiting for these
Yeah.
paramedic guys.
It was a sneak
And
attack, and I loved it.
yeah, and what a great tackle on the one paramedic when he was trying to get away. That was a football tackle.
Yeah, man.
This is a comedy, yes, but it does contain actual gore and a few what do we say? Not jump scares, but
Startles.
startles. Yeah. Yes, because earlier the dispatch is asking the first paramedics what's going on, and the zombie hears it while he's eating, and he's like, "Send more paramedics." They're like, "Okay."
That was hilarious.
That was good.
I was like, "Sir, very smart. Good job."
One of the boarded windows in the storage room is broken open and needs to be reinforced. During this, Scuzz is killed, but Ernie manages to snag half of the zombie that did it and subdues her. They take her back to the embalming room and tie her down and ask her questions. She is able to respond as a normal person would, despite not having a lower half and suffering from decades of rot and decay. Asking why they attack and feed on people, she corrects Ernie and says, not people, brains. When asked why brains, she tells him it's the only thing that stops the pain of death. I can feel my body rot. Leading Ernie to the conclusion, apparently it hurts to be dead. So, as silly as that was, we get an explanation.
There's a motivation behind them. Like, it's not mindless.
No,
There's
they
a
need it.
reason.
They want it.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, police have been sent to investigate the 2 ambulance not responding and are attacked. The zombies radio to send more cops.
The dead guy who radioed for more cops, was he wearing a bellhop uniform?
It looked like it, yeah.
It looked like it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking, because I was like, why would you be buried in your uniform?
This is also when trash rises from the ground covered in mud 1 minute, completely clean, including her hair the next minute.
Mm-hmm. True story.
And no mud was obstructing her titties at all. None.
Nope.
Actually, nothing.
Nothing was obstructing.
I think there was a cod piece at this time. Because, like you, I was mesmerized.
It's distracting.
No, distracting. That's the word. Mesmerized.
I was distracted. You might have been mesmerized, but I was distracted.
And might I add, for someone who just got eaten by 8 or so zombies, looked great.
Right? I thought you would be missing more pieces.
This would have been better with bite marks and chunks missing, like a whole part of like her boob
Yeah.
just missing, and not the nipples. That would look weird. But I won't lie either. I was a little turned on by the zombie naked chick right up until she bit that homeless dude,
Oh, yeah.
and they had her mouth like a foot long open. That was
Yeah.
weird looking, very effective. It was a cool effect,
No, it
but
was very effective, but I was like,
not attractive.
yeah, but none of the other zombies have that
No,
overextended mouth either. So I was like,
but
random, but okay.
she was special, I guess.
Yeah.
Special zombie.
She's a special zombie.
Until then, I'm like, I'd date that zombie. I wouldn't bring her home to mom, probably because she'd eat
No.
her. Frank and Freddy are slowly becoming zombies and are moved to the chapel area to be sealed in. Tina stays with Freddy, who dies, reanimates, and then tries to attack her. Honestly, would you have stayed with Freddy?
Fuck no.
No, I wouldn't stay with Freddy
I
either.
think I actually made a note that Tina's a stupid woman.
Yeah, she was dumb.
Your
Because they even
boyfriend's turning
said,
into
we have to
zombie.
lock the door.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm gonna
She's like,
stay with him.
"Yeah,
I love him.
Someone should have
Stupid.
said, he wouldn't stay here with you, right?
No, man, he'd be out the door. He'd sit outside the door and
Yeah.
be like, baby, I love you. But he would make sure to have the door between them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, where are we? Yeah, he ran and tries to attack her. Yeah, I wouldn't have stayed in that room. No.
Nope,
I'd
not
be
even
like,
a
I
little
think we
bit.
should see other people, dude.
Not even
You're
see other people. I just don't want to see you.
Yeah, because you're looking like you're gonna become a whole lot needier
Yep.
and bitey. Also, this is not here. They discuss when they're discussing what to do, which includes hiding out in the attic, using acid to melt their way out.
Hmm.
Tina screams for help and others come to her. Freddy has acid splashed in his eyes and they manage to lock him into the chapel. Frank, no one notices Frank sneaking away, and he does it so comically, like he's getting away. I love Frank so much.
But can we talk about just before the acid gets thrown in Freddy's face? That whole when the guys come in to help, what's her name? Tina?
Tina.
Um, when they come in to help her, two of them are swinging. They're
Oh yeah.
swinging. And then it's so funny because Ernie's in the back holding the nitric acid and he's just like jumping back and forth and being like, oh, 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 oh. But he doesn't do anything
No.
other than jump back and forth. I was watching him. I'm not even lying to you. I was like,
No, yeah,
what are you doing?
and that's what I mean. Was it these actors coming, or was the director who wrote the
Yeah,
movie? Did he? I don't know. I think it's a bit of both.
we should find out. Somebody find
Yeah, it
out for
would
us.
be. Yeah, it would be great. Okay, so meanwhile, before becoming shambling zombie, yeah, these zombies don't shamble. Okay. So Frank is making his way to the cremation furnace and incinerates himself. And this is kind of sad. It's kind of a sad scene.
It is a very sad scene, but also at
Yeah,
the same time, I'm like, Frank, you are a very, very good person.
yeah,
And I appreciate that you decided to end your life rather than try to eat someone's brains.
yeah,
Frank
yeah.
his character.
Yeah, because when he gets in there and the door
Yeah.
shuts and you hear the fire go, he screams. Like, he
Yeah, man.
screams.
He does.
as
And
you
I'm like, yo,
as you
respect.
probably would.
Well, yes, if someone was to light me on fire
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
an
that's usually
oven with a closed
what
door,
follows is a scream or two.
yeah, just one or two.
It is decided that the only way they are going to be able to get help is to try to escape in the police car. Okay, what else did they miss here? Zombies keep breaking through, and after the main door incident, they board it up. Ernie breaks his foot, so he can't go. That's why they
Yeah.
decide they need a car. And he throws the acid on the face, which doesn't do really anything.
No, it
Blinds
slows him
him.
down for like a hot second.
Yeah, that's about
But
it.
then Freddy breaks through the doors of the chapels, which they have reinforced with a pew in front of it or a bench.
Yeah, yeah.
But when he breaks through, you can see apparently the acid was thrown just over his eyes.
Yeah, melted downward.
I was like, I don't know if that's how a throw works, but okay, sure.
Bert and Spider make a run to the car and are able to get in and move it to the door of the mortuary. However, they quickly become surrounded by zombies and must leave without the others. Teen is very upset by this.
Yes.
Yeah. But Bert is like, they had to go.
Yeah.
Or Ernie's like, they had to go, and they'll send help if they make it out. They are able to make their way to the warehouse where they can try and phone the police to warn them of the situation. The police have now set up a blockade around the area of the cemetery and send in several squad cars, which are directed into a different area by a zombie wearing a policeman's rain gear. That was
Mhm.
awesome. That was an awesome scene. Like, I'm like, can you not fucking see this guy? Look at him. He
No,
looks like a zombie. Just sitting
they
there and
can't tell.
waving the. Oh, so good. Okay. The cars are attacked and it is witnessed by the helicopter overhead. Yeah, that was a great scene. Just the
Mhm.
zombies coming, the cars stop, and they all get out, and the zombies just like descend on them. The whole convoy.
Yeah.
At the warehouse, Casey and Chuck greet Bert and Spider and report that they trapped a zombie in the office. We also get a great Spider line, like, come on, you stupid honky. That was great too. I made a note of that.
That was I was watching, and then I heard it, and I went, "No, he didn't."
Oh, he did.
So I replayed it, and I was like, "Oh, I still can't tell, but it sounds like it." So then I put on the subtitles because I was like, "No, we're gonna confirm this." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
He's
Let's
a
go, you
honky."
stupid honky. Unfortunately, the telephone is in the same office. Bert suggests the one in the basement, but the teens tell him about Tarman. Bert says they have to try for the basement, and they knock the Tarman's head off with a bat as they open the door. This allows them to get to the phone, and Bert proceeds to call the police and asks to speak to the person in charge of the blockade. As they are connected, the zombies rush the blockade, and we see the commander taken down by a new zombified trash. Yes, they're talking to the captain, and he's like, "Hold on, I can't hear. What's that noise?" And the barricade's just overrun.
Yep.
Again, another great scene. Disheartened by the noises from the phone, Bert calls the number on the side of the barrel. Okay, wait. Back at the mortuary, yeah, the acid really didn't work at all
Yeah, no.
because it just made him blind and apparently strong because he busted his way out of the chapel, like you said, even with the
Yeah.
thing blocking it, and then busted through the steel door of the embalming room.
Yep.
Yeah. This was the one thing that really could have been cooler, like, I'm sure with budget constraints, but more about his face with that acid. Like you
Yeah.
said, it just looked like it did it there. Yeah.
Honestly, I think what they probably ended up doing was doing, like, a prosthesis just over the eyes of, like, an acid burn,
Yeah.
because then that would be a lot cheaper to do and a lot easier to apply rather
Yeah.
than doing, like, a splash.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what I mean by not wanting to be part of this zombie apocalypse. Freddy can smell Tina and or her
Mm,
brains.
yeah.
He's figured out they're hiding in the attic.
Mhm.
He was able to find a ladder and place it under the attic hatch. And he's not bad for a blind zombie.
Right?
So Bert calls the number on the barrel. He's connected to Colonel Horace, who we met earlier at the beginning, who gets some information from Bert about location, time of occurrence, number of zombies, etc. Bert is then transferred again and explains to the teens that apparently the army has been expecting something like this to happen for a long time and already have a plan in place to deal with it. And can I add to all you budding filmmakers who most likely will just be making B movies, C movies, D movies, which is fine. Not the C and D movies that I see on TV, they suck. But the conversation seemed long.
Mm.
But it was full of info. It was kind of useless, but it added a sense of legitimacy to the movie.
You got there in the end.
Yeah, I got
Um, but also from the information that was being gathered, you could kinda tell where this was going.
Yeah, I was just about to say it, and it
Yeah.
kind of hinted what was coming.
Like, it sounded innocuous enough, but then there was a lot of, like, "And where is that? And what's where
What
exactly?"
did you say? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, "Can you give me more detail?" And you're like, "Uh-uh. Uh-uh, no. This is gonna be bad."
Even that was is good because it's like you're like, oh no.
Yep.
Back at the mortuary, Ernie and Tina have escaped to the attic area and of the embalming room as Freddy breaks out of the chapel screaming for Tina's brains. The colonel is connected to an artillery post and provides coordinates and clearance to launch a small yield nuclear attack in form of a nuclear artillery at the location of the cemetery. All of these scenes culminate with the sound of a nuclear shell being fired, Bert still on hold, Freddy breaking into the attic with Ernie pointing his gun at Tina's head, planning on killing her and himself to avoid being eaten.
Mm-hmm.
The zombie standing and staring at the sky, a long whistle of a shell falling, and finally a shot of a small nuclear explosion. The film ends with the general stating to his superior officers that the strike seems to have been successful, and actually it was Colonel, and that reports are coming in of the only side effects being a little acid rain. The general assures his superiors that this won't affect the president's trip to Louisville tomorrow morning at all. The last scene is of a darkened cemetery and skeletal zombie rising from the grave. And that is The Return of the Living Dead.
Yes, it is.
All right. Buy it, rent it, stream it, skip it is the score. I will go first.
Mm-hmm.
This was an 80s movie, yes, but you could have taken out the abundance of synthesizer scoring and replaced it with actual orchestra, and the movie would still work. Although, as someone who loves the 80s, I did like the synthesizer sounds. This movie was fantastic. The acting from the seasoned vets, James Karen, Hugh Gallagher, Don Caffa, was awesome. Even Tom Matthews. Even the younger cast was good, like especially Miguel A. Nunes Jr., Mark Venturini, who actually both appeared the same year in Friday 13th Part 5.
Oh, nice.
But Chuck, Crash, Casey, and Tina, they were good too. The death scenes were fun and some even sad. There were a couple of startles and some genuine tense moments. The paramedics, the cops, the swarms of zombies running down the street made this movie feel much bigger than it actually was, since it was all shot really in that one area. This movie was gory. The effects, for the most part, still hold up today. I think there is something to be said for practical effects still being awesome. But most of all, it's just a freaking fun movie to watch. I laughed. I felt sorry for characters getting off. I laughed again. I saw kitties. I saw zombie kitties. What wasn't there to love about this movie? Dan O'Bannon and his crew did an awesome job. Buy it. Buy it at regular price. In fact, I watched a comparison on Blu-ray and 4K, and while the Blu-ray looked a little better than DVD, the 4K looked fucking awesome. Like the smoke actually coming out of the chimney looked supernatural in the 4K, the way they wanted it to look. And they're both are packed with commentary and behind the scenes and making ofs. This is worth a $15 Blu-ray, and it's worth a $25 4K. Who doesn't want to see zombie poop in 4K? Mom, why is Dad pressing his face against the TV?
Oh Lord.
But no, I watched it on HD stream.
Yeah.
I would buy a digital UHD, but I think I want to buy the 4K with the bonus features. Yeah, buy it at regular price.
Nice.
That's my score. What's your score?
I have a 2-tiered score. And here's why I say that. If you're someone who can deal with gore, I say buy it. If you're not a big fan of gore, I say rent it. Because I still feel like this is a movie that everybody can watch. How much you appreciate it is different for everybody, but this very much feels like a very lighthearted, very funny, startling at moments, but not necessarily scary. But it carries the nostalgia of the 80s with it. So it's almost like a fun peek. Kind of like that 70s show, which was made in the 90s, but is about the 70s. It almost feels like that. It almost feels like it was made today, but it's about the 80s.
Yeah.
But it was made in the 80s. So it's definitely something that I feel is a little more timeless, and I really think everybody should watch it at least once. And if you're someone who likes a little bit of gore and who likes synthesizer scoring, which is amazing, especially for this movie, buying it, totally worth it.
Yeah.
I would buy it. But if you're not a big fan of those things, I still think you should watch it. And I think you should pay full price to rent it.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of fun watching this movie.
There's so much that you're just like, no.
Yeah.
Really? And then you laugh. And then you're like, ew. That is not okay.
This one actually made me scratch my head going, why? Because I think I said it was like at least 15 years since I seen this. And I don't understand why. It made it that much better watching it.
Yeah,
for
sure.
But I know it won't be 15 more years.
But this is
before I
also a
see
really
this.
great movie to watch with a group of people.
Oh yeah.
It's a
this
conversation starter.
Yeah, and it's one of those, it's fun watching it by yourself, but yeah, it would definitely be a lot of fun watching it with a bunch of people.
Yeah, this is a party movie.
Yeah, Could it be rebooted today?
Why would you want to?
I don't think you need, the effects still hold.
The effects still hold, the humor still holds, the whole vibe still holds.
Yeah.
Like, the movie is very much an entity onto itself. It's not trying to be anything else for anyone else. So I'm like, you don't need to remake that. It still works. You may have to explain rotary phones to some people and why nobody has a cell phone in this movie. But I mean, other than that,
I know that they've made like 6 or 7 of these movies. The last 3 or 4 have been straight to video or whatever and have not been good. I watched one of them and they were
yeah.
horrid. Just not good at all. But yeah, I would love to see someone go back to that style or universe, like that Return of the Living Dead feel, and
Yeah.
do a new take on it. Do like I feel Cooties, that type of
Cooties was
thing.
so good.
Yeah, that's that very funny yet gory.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another one, I can't remember the name of it. The guy who does the voice of Olaf.
Oh, Josh Gad.
Josh Gad, he did a zombie movie that takes place at a ranch where all these elementary kids it gets run over by kid zombies.
I don't think I've seen that one
And
yet.
he plays the biggest douchebag in the world, and he is so
Yes.
funny. I don't know what the name is. It's Josh Gad, and it is a very well done, very gory, very funny movie. And he plays such a dick in it, but he's so funny because it's
I
Josh
believe it.
Gad. Yeah, no, I would love to see someone, and I guess they kind of are, but yeah, you don't need to reboot this.
It doesn't need a reboot.
No.
I wouldn't be mad at a sort of, not necessarily a reboot, but maybe a reimagining, like keep it all the same, maybe update it a little bit. But overall, I'm like, it's good the way it is.
Yeah. And where are you gonna find a James Karen? Like, where are you gonna find like a Bert and a Frank and an Ernie? Those
gonna be hard.
3, yeah, those 3 were pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed our review of The Return of the Living Dead. Please check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, Instagram. And if you'd like to watch our live recordings every Wednesday at 9 p.m., of course, this episode will be trimmed and tightened for YouTube and our audio podcast. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Just that the zombie movie that we were talking about with Josh Gad is Little Monsters.
Little Monsters. Yes. Great movie.
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you for listening or watching the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. Until the next movie we remember liking.
Congratulations. You just had one of your childhood movie memories vindicated. Or they just eviscerated it. I don't know. This is a generic one-size-fits-all type of ending to the podcast. So thank you for listening, and please join Anna and Jimmy next time for another episode of the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. If you dare to go back and watch that movie you remember liking,